Welcome, reanimated fans. This is H.A. Conrad coming to you from a very snowy Brooklyn. Here with me today is my intrepid co host, Stuart Tiffin. Is it snowy where you are, Stuart?
Come on, man. You don't have to ask questions like
I
that.
know. Sometimes I hope you'll have a white Christmas
It
or
has snowed, here and there. If it snows, it sticks around for 5 minutes, and that's the end of that.
yeah, I don't know if this is going to stick. It's supposed to get pretty cold tonight, but it looks pretty cool right now. We have a couple of news items, and then we are at long last diving into The Walking Dead Dead City season 2. And I am very interested to talk about this with you, Stuart.
Hmm.
And we're going to be covering a couple of episodes at a time. So we're doing episodes 1 and 2. But before we get into that, we have a couple of actually really good news items. I don't know that the first one was really a huge surprise, but it basically is talking about the third installment of 28 Years Later. I felt like this was kind of a non-issue, but did you feel like this was not something that was going to happen? And what we're talking about is that a third movie, a third installment was like absolutely a go. I thought it had already been kind of locked in,
Nah,
but
we
maybe
hadn't
I'm
heard
wrong.
that yet. This is that's why I included it in the news. The first two were basically funded,
Ah,
and
okay.
obviously the second one's already coming out, this month or next month rather. But the third one was the question mark, and it kind of depended on the success of the first one, clearly. And so there's news about Killian Murphy also being involved in the third one and the fact that the third one is going to happen. So,
Yeah, I'll admit to you, I probably just had kind of that wishful thinking, or maybe I just was. I'll admit I was assuming it just because of all like the great press and the Killian Murphy piece. I thought had already been locked in, but I might have just been honestly overly optimistic. He is a gentleman that I don't think you can lock down until he actually signs on the dotted line. So let's hope this goes forward in the way that they're talking about.
yeah.
Um,
I've also seen some headlines. I didn't put them in the show notes because I didn't want to read reviews of the Bone Temple, but I'm seeing headlines that are pretty excited about the movie, the like people who have seen advanced copies.
I have seen, so I did see a couple of those, and I deliberately didn't put them in because probably for the same reason. I've been trying to avoid reading anything about it because I really don't want to be spoiled for this one.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't want to be spoiled, but I'm happy to see that critics are saying ridiculously optimistic and positive things about it.
yeah. And then talking about other things that are exciting us lately, this is not a test. They are re-releasing the YA novel that it was based upon, which apparently came out in 2012. I never read it. Did you happen to come across this in your travels,
No,
Stuart?
I don't read a ton of YA yet. Maybe I will as I have some YAs in my house.
That's what I was thinking, but you never know. Um, but I'll bite. I'm all good, so to speak. I'm all good. Like it's probably a pretty quick read, is my guess. But I always think it's kind of fun to see what the original source material is before you hop into a show. So I might dive into this over the holidays. And then last but not least, something that I am very excited about, and it just feels like we had talked just recently about this show, and um, it is that Pushing Daisies season 3 with the original cast is going to be happening, which honestly, I really can't believe it. They have a pretty star-studded cast, especially Lee Pace and Kristen Chenoweth are the two really big names, and there's other people too. Like it's like totally um, a really amazing group of actors. I'm just shocked that they're going to be able to make this work, and I'm excited to see what they do with it. I just don't know how they manage, the many years that have been in between. But I'm very curious to see what happens with it. And would you watch the whole thing now, Stuart, now that there's like a third season coming?
I mean, only 3 seasons, sure, I could commit to that.
All right.
Do you feel like it's zombie enough for us?
I don't know. I think it's more, this may be more you watch it and we talk about it versus review it on the show. I'm happy
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
I don't know that it's zombie enough because it's a little bit more death than zombie and the examining those pieces.
Mm, yeah.
Kind of like Dead Like Me, which is his other show. And then he did he is really I really like him as a showrunner, and I just generally like the content that he's associated with. So I am very excited about this. I mean, to me it is actually very exciting that the cast is totally on board and excited to do this. Because it actually means that they enjoyed the original show. But so we'll have more to come on that as it goes through to production. But to me, this was like such a little like happy little rainbow bit of news for me. So we're gonna go into now talking about Walking Dead, Dead City season two, episodes one and two. Unless you had anything else you wanted to chat about, Stuart.
No, I think it wasn't a huge news week. And but these are I think the biggest news here is the 28 years later. But yeah, we can get into the Dead City, and I feel like maybe I'm with you on my response to this show so far.
I think that the thing that's very hard for me about this whole show is that I really like Maggie. I really like Negan. And I unfortunately I'm seeing just even in the second season the issues that you and I have talked about a lot with Walking Dead and some of the story arcs and character arcs, which is that some of the showrunners and writers spent a lot of time doing some character building and making a mythology surrounding certain characters. And then you see them doing things that you don't really believe that they would actually do based on what you know. Um, and I will say that I just think, um, you know, uh, Richard Dean Morgan is just a really compelling actor, and
Jeffrey Dean.
Jeffrey Lee Morgan is really an actor that I think he's amazing, and I think that that persona of Negan that he has created is very layered, and I think he's doing his best to kind of kind of like bring that into the fold, and there will be probably like this big twist or something like that. But and and we've also seen similarly with the character Maggie, like there's a lot going on there, a lot of demons, a lot of things related to her dynamic with him. But there's just things that and we'll talk about this as we talk about these episodes. There's things that I'm just like they're really trying to kind of to me jam things into basically a fabric that does not make sense to me. Just to move a plot and move the plot along in a way to basically get characters from one geographic location to another, or to put them in a situation, but not in a way to me that as a watcher is enjoyable or makes sense. And so that at the outset is kind of how I feel about it still. Um, and
For
there's
me,
just things,
the world building has not worked for this show.
yeah,
Like
like
the city they're trying harder on the city than they are on anything outside of New York, but it's still really uh feels superficial in anything that they've done here compared with the Prime show. I don't think that
right.
they're doing the work.
Right. And even if you compare it to the Rick and Michonne spinoff, which I do think had some
Oh yeah.
benefit of like we maybe you're not as familiar with the places that they are, and they had the benefit of like, you know, being in an area, or we had some familiarity with some of the world that they were in, and they were able to build upon that. And this, I guess, they are trying to build something very new, like it outside of the Prime world. But unfortunately, I just don't think that they're doing it successfully. And there is a like I have a disbelief about the fact just and maybe this is just my familiarity with New York and other things. I just don't know that I believe that these things would be happening in the way that they're unfolding or that they could. And then there also is like, what the motivation behind some of the things that these groups are doing feels very thin,
Mhm.
and also doesn't hold up if you look at it against just the general sort of the world that they're just trying to survive in. Would they be spending so much energy on the things that we're talking about? And so, anyway, so with that said, I guess we can dive into it.
We start off with actually there's been a couple of pretty good musical not numbers, but they're spending money on music at least. They
Sure.
do the first song of this episode is Back in a New York Groove, and you get some shots of some of the Croats guys going around collecting zombie bodies, and just kind of remind. I think it's like a refresher that he's still generating an energy based on these zombies, and they're showing the lights coming on at like Radio City Music Hall, um, etc. And the Croats guys are still these mysterious trench-coated, helmeted figures, which is really more of like a cost-saving measure by the production than than anything else, right? Like,
Yep.
how many times have those exact two people died on screen? Probably many. Um, and that's kind of I feel like that's the extent of our reintroduction to the city, and then we go back out to Marshall, Maggie, and Herschel. And
Commercial.
yeah,
Interesting.
I guess the Maggie and Herschel stuff over the course of these two episodes, it feels dragged out,
Yep.
because we all know because of the heavy hinting at the end of last season that he was a turncoat or a Stockholm syndrome or whatever the hell. I don't feel like we need to go on this exploratory thing. Like, let's rip the Band-Aid off and have
Yep.
her that scene by the end of episode two where she's crying and hugging him and he's like, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe that is fast enough to not make the audience feel like they've been punished for forever to just get to this part. But so Herschel is a mole basically for Dama.
Hmm.
Dama is a really problematic character for me because I don't understand. Like a Ginny, remember Ginny from Fear the Walking Dead?
Yep.
This culture, this society of post-apocalypse, they value strength over everything else. She's not strong, although the way that she does one thing in the second episode does seem to suggest that she has crazy upper body strength. I just don't, she as a big bad or as a boss lady doesn't make a ton of sense.
I was having the same feelings about her, just for so many reasons. She is definitely exuding the fact that she is um off her rocker a bit. But she is not, it is not showing me why people would still follow her. What does she have and what power does she have that people are going to bow to? And I am not convinced that the Croat would do that. I'm not convinced that anybody would do that. And so she goes on these little like diatribes about art. And by the way, we'll talk about the painting that she's all excited about, the Goya painting, which it's like, yeah, did you somehow get that over the ocean from Madrid? Maybe that's indication that she did, but that's a painting that's in the Prado. So I'm not totally believing that that made it, but maybe that's a little bit of what they're indicating.
Hmm.
I was finding it hard to believe that anybody would be bowing to her command. It didn't feel like there was a reason, and maybe they will be unveiling that. But I also felt that at the end of the first season, even in the interactions between her and Negan. Like, what does she have? I get that she basically uses people and has power over them, but what is causing the other people to bow to her to be able to to be carrying out her orders in that way? What
Yeah.
did she do?
The
They
the
didn't
only
do a
thing that
great
seems to
job.
the only thing that seems to suggest that this would work is that the Croat, who does seem to have some power and followers, also looks up to her a lot. But
But why?
independently, who are the people following her and why is that working?
But why is he following her in this way?
Yeah, because
Um,
again, he's also kind of an erudite member of this like savage post-apocalyptic New York, right? Like he's an inventor. He's got flamethrowers. These guys wear weird masks and have cars with spikes on them. And so that puts him in the sort of brainy evil category of Dama too. But yeah, it doesn't totally check out because the other people, Christos, who we meet in this episode, is way more Mad Max Thunderdome kind of power begets power sort of person. That's the name of the
right.
name of the episode is Power Equals Power. And I'm like, well, I don't really see how that equation works with Dama for this season so far.
Right. And the Croat still has all of this, like he's got the technology and the power behind the fuel and what they're doing. Again, like, just going back to what you were talking about with Radio City Music Hall, why on earth would you, and they keep just using that particular like scene, which is, as a person very familiar with Midtown, it's like really they're really they're making it very like hazy, and it's to me not incredibly successful, but also why would you be doing that? And we hear a lot in this, both from Maggie's group or whoever this little like sect is,
Hmm.
but also from Dama and Croat's group that we're going to make this city come back. And it's really weird because it's like, okay, but other than bringing it back, like you say something about it being the center of culture and all this other stuff, but it's full of walkers. It's full of threats. And even if you do have that fuel, you're using it for this. There's not like, just from a survival point of view, there's just not a lot of land to be doing, like to be growing food, to be bringing stuff in. I
And
don't know,
they're clearly not using Central Park as agriculture.
clearly not. And I was sort of like, oh, that would have been a very cool twist if that's what they were doing. Like, that would be awesome.
The one thing I am most excited about for this season so far is they did a shot of Central Park at the end of the first episode
Yeah.
there, and they had a roar.
Yeah. So what's in there? Was it
So
one of
th
the lions from the zoo or something? I don't know.
maybe it's a lion, maybe it's a some kind of weird hero zombie, which they've not shied away from. Like they had a Rat King zombie last season or the first season. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of excited. And at the end of episode two, they are going in, or the remainders of the New Babylonians are going into Central Park. But yeah, the fact that the New York weirdo savages are not using any kind of agriculture, at least not in Central Park, and maybe it's because Central Park is indefensible because the zombies own the ground floor and
Right.
all the farming is done on rooftops. That could be the case. The title credits seem to suggest that that's happening because there's a shot of a guy on a zip line going between two rooftops, and on one of them is a bunch of like grow tents and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean that's totally possible, but then show that or something. So, and again, I think just generally after watching these two episodes, it's like let's establish why. Why are you trying to bring the city back? What is it that you think can be accomplished? Because it's a very hard area to defend. It's a very hard area to come in and out of. Um, Maybe you can defend certain pieces of it. Maybe it makes sense to like, I thought they were going to maybe do something with Governor's Island because that absolutely makes sense because that's like an island and much more easily defensible. It's also a
Hmm.
former like military like fort and everything. So it still has some of those fortifications and things like that that might make it more easily. It's sort of surprising that they were like gonna go, Maggie and her team are gonna go to Governor's Island as like a cover and then go out, that nobody would have taken that as like a safe haven seems a little weird to me. You could have also done something kind of cool with Roosevelt Island. I don't know. It's sort of like weird to me that this is where they're going because it doesn't make logical sense, especially with groups of people that have been surviving this long.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, the whole plan with the Marshal, now former Marshal Colonel, and his now band of like what I guess they're still like the law, I suppose, and everybody's kind of kowtowing to them. But even, yeah, maybe they're going to go get fuel, and that seems to be what their motivation is. But why would you be making these kind of crazy decisions to send in this group of people to do what? Are you getting the technology? Are you getting the actual fuel? You have no chance of survival based on the information that you have been given. In terms
It's
of like, it just seems crazy to
They
me.
are super underdeveloped also. I mean, yeah, all we got up from them in first season was, yeah, they're the like lawful evil party. They're the law and order above all else to the detriment of everybody around them. And that's kind of interesting, but also it's way too mustache twirly
Yeah.
when they're brought around in this episode where the major, whose name I don't think I've heard in the show, but it's mentioned in the notes, like on Wikipedia and stuff. She is so over the top that it's pretty silly. Um, and
Well,
so yeah, they're hanging people who have refused to be enlisted under duress, and then they're press ganging. Like that's kind of one of the major parts of this episode is they leverage Maggie's entire community to get her to come back to New York with them. because it turns out there's a moth plague on the corn, and we're supposed to believe that because they had a shot of some like super fake looking cornfield
Hmm.
and two shots of moths that Maggie would look at and go,
Yep.
like this, they're just doing such
They're
little work.
stretching.
They're doing such little work to persuade us that this world should feel more real than it does, that
Right.
it's kind
And
of
then the new
annoying.
Babylon piece, it's like you have, as you said, mustache twirly, but this person has ostensibly made it to this level of command, and I don't know how you could ignore the intelligence that Maggie is giving you. I mean, just even if you don't fully believe it, she and the marshal, former marshal, um, I guess colonel now, have knowledge of they were the only people that had been in there before. And that to me is like even the whole plot when the marshal's like later is like, hey, and that's like jumping into episode two, but like he's just like, okay, well, they don't know we're coming now. It's like, well, yeah, they do.
That was so dumb.
You just did, somebody
There's
just did a
literally a
smoke.
smoke signal going up.
Like,
Do you think that they
what?
don't know yet?
Yeah. So these are the kinds of things that were really driving me crazy in this, and I
Yeah.
suspect will be driving me crazy throughout the show.
There was just so many big flubs like that. If there
Right.
were maybe a few less, it would have felt less like a hack job, but it really did because there were just like one after another these dumb things happening that and yeah, so and Pearlie is a good example of one of the weird things that's going on with characters in this show, mostly Negan and Pearlie, I feel like.
Mm.
They're just such diminished versions of themselves.
Yeah.
I don't understand what happened to Pearlie. I don't really remember, I guess, that clearly what happened to him in season one. I think he found that his brother had died in New York.
Did. Yep.
Um, but he's gone back to New Babylon. I remember that he did lie about what happened to Negan, but
Yeah.
now he's been promoted, but he's like so much less confident
Right.
in every element of himself because he was a total badass in season
Yeah.
one.
And now he's like doing this weird thing that I,
It feels kind of, yeah, it's distracting. And Negan is just so sad and getting manipulated and being sad, and the relationship between him and Victor the violin player is also confusing to me. What did you think of that whole thing?
I mean, I don't think they were being incredibly subtle about the fact that, like, clearly Victor was like his friend and ally and feeding him, and everybody saw that. And you don't show that weakness to somebody like the Croat because he utilizes those kinds of things to basically manipulate people. Also, they were like kind of being on the lookout, like, oh, is anybody around? Because I'll now play the violin for you. It's like, yeah, that sound carries really far. Like, whether you see anybody or not, people are going to see you playing the violin. And um, I think to me, like, I think Negan is much smarter than that
Yeah.
and would be very, very cautious in terms of like how he is interacting with somebody and in front of other people. And I don't think he was here, and so and I just don't think he's that dumb. And but they're making him that dumb, and they're also making the Croat a little too smart. So as we saw later in the episode in the second episode, just with like the whole idea that Negan is gonna this was the part that really rubbed me the wrong way. The Croat shares a story of how Negan at one point showed mercy to this group of people when they were together as the whatever.
Well, it wasn't Mercy though, was it, in the story?
No, but this is my point. Like the Croat made a point of telling that story.
Yeah.
So he then basically sells out Negan saying that Negan spared people, but how does he know it's not this other Negan? I think he suspects Negan is still a little bit more redeemed than he would like, and maybe he's trying to push him into that direction. But I also don't think that he would have drawn the conclusion that he did that he was sparing people in the few seconds that he did without looking through the telescope to see that Negan was like delaying to spare people. Um, It's just so like weird to me. It feels very artificial. It feels very ham-fisted in terms of how they're like dealing with these characters. And honestly, it's pretty boring when it could be really interesting. So I just don't, you know, I think that they're trying to make a point. And honestly, the minute that the Victor gave him the cockroaches to eat, I was like, oh man, this guy's gonna totally die.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had that feeling too. But
Yeah, part of me was surprised that Dama does it because she does seem to be a patron of the arts, but then apparently she hates Bach, and who saw that coming?
yeah.
And I did actually like Victor's dialogue that he was written about like how he, well, actually I didn't agree with any of it, but like he's like Vivaldi to this, Mozart to that, Brahms total jerk. Or like, what a waste of time. But Bach, oh, okay, he's good. I'm like, come on, all these guys are pretty good. What are you
I
doing?
know.
What are you doing, man? You're gonna play some Vivaldi's Four Seasons and be like, nah, come on, man. I don't agree. So immersion for me totally ruined by that, but also I thought it was pretty good. And I like to hear somebody playing violin really well. And so I got to hear a little bit of that. But then it just felt so weird to me that Dama would be the one to be like, no, I have feelings about Bach, but mostly this is about punishing Negan. Also, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's face suggests that he knows exactly what's going to happen at the culmination of that scene here. But
Hmm.
then his reaction is still like, "Oh no, you did it! I can't believe it." I'm like, "That you know that was coming."
Yeah, of course he did. I'm actually surprised that she did it again, especially given her. I would imagine that this skill is very rare at this point in the apocalypse, so or post-apocalypse. I just think that again, given what we know about her, even her insanity, this feels very dumb to me. I also feel like given some of the things that she's done, and she was basically holding Annie and Joshua Negan's former significant other and his son, that she's holding them hostage essentially, or she says she is. Why wouldn't she hold Victor and use him in some other way? I mean, I feel like the threat of torture is almost worse than what she actually did here, at least for Negan, because Negan's used to this kind of thing. I mean, he's not gonna like it, and he's gonna be really upset about it. But I think it would be more effective for him anyway to use somebody and like basically put Victor back in the cell that Negan was in or something like that. That's kind of what I was expecting. It feels like it could have been done in such a better way. The Croat knows exactly who Negan is, and does he think this is going to end well for him? Like, is he trying to like my only thought is that he thinks that he's going to somehow um um drive Negan into to being the old Negan, and maybe that's his intent. But I think he understands Negan's sense of revenge and vengeance is very deep and can last a really long time. And so I just don't
He
that's part of what's bothering me. I just don't think he's that stupid.
Yeah, but the actor playing the Croat, who's Ivanek, he looks so sheepish and apologetic to Negan because I think he does hero worship Negan too, right? So he's caught between Dama, who he is for whatever reason subjugated himself before, and then Negan, who is like the guy who he has like a man crush on. And I think when the scene happens where he's like takes Lucille away so Negan can't reach it, the look between them is not Negan's like, what the hell? But the Croat isn't like, screw you, man. It's more like, sorry, dude, you know? Their relationship is weird and complicated and maybe too complicated and not well developed enough to be realistic. But while Croat might know that Negan's revenge capacity is large and deep, I think he's gonna still try to work on being Negan's friend at some point, the way that they're having the performance between the two actors.
Hmm.
Well, that's any it could be any it could go either way. Um
And I was gonna the other thing I wanted to chat about with you was just about New Babylon and their tactics for going and doing this exploratory mission versus gathering people and saying, "Hey, look, we're running out of fuel and we need to go and do this," which means to me that there's some motive that they'll probably do some big reveal about. But I don't know that conscripting people into doing this kind of a suicide mission, which is basically what this is, and I think everybody knows it. I don't think you even need to be Maggie and Pearlie to know that this is not a mission that people are probably going to be able to come back from.
Hmm.
Um, like, how is this tactical in a way that will ultimately serve the communities? And is the better way to be open about what you're doing in terms of the fuel? Because that seems to me like you would get volunteers instead of like using these fear tactics and threat tactics. And I mean, I think that's part of the point is that they're drawing parallels between New Babylon and the, Dama and the Croats methods. Um, but usually you want some kind of like some kind of I don't know, like happy or more like somehow you want some community that's doing the right thing that maybe like would gather together, and that to me would be a lot more interesting than what they're currently doing. So I don't know. Do you have thoughts about that? Like I just don't understand what the end game for New Babylon would actually be.
Like I said, I don't think that they're well developed, and yeah, their motives are weird. And certainly, we've seen people who try to lead this way. The brutality of their tactics undermines their leadership credibility. And maybe they would argue that, like, to tell all of the people who are in New Babylon that they're having a crisis and running out of fuel would only lead to a run on the banks, or like everybody would fracture and New Babylon would cease to exist. Could be, you know. But Maggie's also very clear that the Bricks was forced to join New Babylon. They didn't want to in the first place. And so
Right.
any weakness that New Babylon shows would probably lead to people like Maggie being like, all right, we're on our own. We're just like High Top again. We don't need you.
Hmm.
Well. So I think there is unfortunately is some realism there that a kinder, gentler version of New Babylon, especially when they started off by being such a bunch of jerks, isn't going to work. But if they'd just been like, "Hey, we're a loosely organized trade network, and we will we have a mutual defense pact, but we're all friendly and cool with each other," kind of like Kingdom, Hilltop, and Alexandria had, which also didn't work all the time, then that would have probably worked out better. But it would have been less dramatic, and you wouldn't have people like the Major rolling up and being a total jerk
Fair.
as persuasively. One of the things that is, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, but Annie and Joshua, who we've never met Joshua, but we met Annie in season 11 of The Walking Dead. Negan's wife has been captured by Dama somehow in what, like Missouri,
Yeah, like
and
they were, he had put them on basically a transport to get them away.
stagecoach. Yeah.
Yeah, to get them away and keep them safe. And now he has been thwarted.
And they're being brought to New York, and so this is also contributing to his insane levels of sadness. Uh, really not digging it. I think that they're doing this to be like, this is Negan at his lowest, and so that we can all celebrate when he is brought back to, you know, levels of badassery that we kind of expect from him. But frankly, it's starting to feel a lot like the Morgan Jones treatment of making him insane and then sane again. And this is just like, oh, it's sad Negan followed by righteous vengeance Negan. And not that interested in that.
Yeah. I don't know. I am interested and curious to see what happens when Negan gets reunited with um our little new Babylon people, or meaning, the Bricks people, I suppose. Obviously he knows I think he only saw Herschel. Did he see anybody else? It felt like he only saw Herschel.
He saw Herschel, yes, only Herschel, as far as I'm
So he
aware.
doesn't know about the other members, and specifically, I think he's going to be very upset when he realizes who else is on the island. But he already knows that part, and so I have a feeling, and this is part of where they're going with think with it, is that they're going to have him scheming to kind of figure out some advantage. And honestly, though, this is why I'm a little disappointed, or a lot disappointed with Dama. Like, you want him to have a formidable enemy to fight against. And
Hmm.
it doesn't, at least at the moment, does not feel that way to me. She just feels a little like crazy.
Yeah, they have
And
introduced Kim Coates as this rich Bartertown guy. Um, you recognize this actor from things like Sons of Anarchy and a lot of TV.
Yeah.
Uh, he has the capacity to be a really good big bad if they write him, if they write a
Well,
character for him that's good.
yeah.
But so far, he hasn't had any speaking lines, has he?
No, he just kind of looks cool.
Yeah, which is
Um,
weird because the dude can act, especially he can act evil. So I hope that they take the muzzle off and let Kim Coates do some stuff in this season. I'd certainly believe his capacity for evil more than I do Dama's at the moment.
right. Um, So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but right now it's honestly confirming exactly why why I was not totally excited about getting into this, but maybe I will say like seeing Negan coming back and we did not, with Lucille, a new Lucille 2.0.
Mhm.
I think that this is to me like really stretching things and really like I don't think they should have done this. I don't know how you feel, but I just think that I mean, I guess it's confirming that they're trying to bring this character back, but he's very different. And I just think um, you should have left Lucille where it was and not brought this weird 2.0 back because then it defeats the purpose of having retired that as a prop in the first place, or as his weapon. He apparently really likes the prop, or at least he said so in the after zane. But that also, I'll admit to you, that felt a little weird in Force 2 to make people excited about this thing. Did you get that vibe?
I didn't watch any of the post credit stuff. I frankly when I asked you like, are we gonna do 2 episodes this week? And you're like, yeah, let's do two. I was like, oh man, I gotta watch another one.
Well, I was more like, hey, I just don't think that there's going to be enough
Yeah, oh, I
to kind
agree.
of.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. Because I don't want to painstakingly go through every element of this, but we do have to talk about how dumb the governor going on the boat to Manhattan in the first wave exploratory mission
Yeah,
is.
I was like, what are you doing? Like, that's crazy.
Do you get the impression she's the leader of New Babylon, or is she like a provincial leader?
He feels like a provincial leader, especially in this decision.
Well, yes, her decision making is not on par with the leader of a nation, but what the hell? Like, what? In fact, their entire leadership team goes on
Right.
this ferry.
Like, what are you like? This feels like madness.
It's completely insane. And they somehow think that like 30 or 40 of their people who are completely like levies, like not trained soldiers, are gonna make any part of a dent in Manhattan. Like they have intel from Pearlie about how many people Barazi have, and presumably, right, and the fact that they have all this ingenuity. Hopefully, he would have told them that if he wasn't too, diminished. Just yeah, it's super dumb. I do kind of like, even though it's silly, the whole mortar thing that the Croat comes up with, where they like
Yeah.
they inflate zombies with methane, I guess. I mean, it's completely absurd. These are people who've been dead for 10 years. You don't think their stomachs ha or lungs have holes in them and like their bodies are just
Yeah,
going to leak that gas
it
out?
seems unlikely, right? So
Yeah.
that I kind of like the idea of it, but I just don't know about the actual execution.
At this point in this franchise, it feels like you can see the writer's room and people just being like, how can we use zombies in a way we've never used them before? Oh, that's a way we've never used zombies before. Like that's not why I watch The Walking Dead. Is for like increasingly dumber ways to use zombies, right? Like, show me something that's more realistic. And I'll probably enjoy that. Like, frankly, an amphibious assault of Manhattan has so much potential to just be cool. You don't need gimmicks every time. And if they have all this methane and they could just explode things, come up with a way to explode things that isn't uh driving nails with like a indirect artillery. The fact that they hit the boat with their first salvo and the second
Yeah.
and the third
Oh,
is
and in
just
the
insane.
dark, and
In
in the
the
dark.
Yeah, I mean the boat is lit up like a Christmas tree too. There's like zero tactical awareness going on, and the governor is standing literally on the front of the boat when the first ones
Yeah,
hit her
it's so.
directly.
Oh man, it's so bad.
It's very bad. It's very bad. So These were both directed by Michael Satrazemis, a longtime director and I think showrunner for the Walking Dead franchise. And then the first one was written by Eli Jornet, who wrote a bunch of the first season, and the second one was written by Zoe Vitale. I gotta say, not impressed so far.
Agree. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know that I have much. Oh, I did have one other thing to see if you noticed and if I'm like when they have the walkers fighting in the little market,
Yeah, what the hell were the walkers fighting each other for?
and why would they with the noise and things like that? It just feels like how is that even happening? So is there something that I'm unaware of here?
Something weird is going on with that we don't
So that
understand.
I feel like is going to come out later
Yeah,
because
because
they
the one who
shouldn't
wins,
be.
the one that Negan goes, "What a huge zombie," or
Right.
walker, or whatever he calls it. Maybe it's not a walker. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, I just that was one thing I did notice and I was like, oh, that's a little weird. So okay. But anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think I can. I guess we're gonna keep watching this season and then another one after this one is over. It's I don't know what they'd have to do to change this show to make it more enjoyable for me, but it right now it feels pretty poor.
Oh, sorry. I do want to talk about one more thing.
Yeah.
Herschel's like weird betrayal and his like obvious turncoat thing. I mean, let's talk about the fact that it to me it was pretty obvious he set the fire. Who else would have said it?
No, yeah,
Um,
it was him and he just shows up right then and there.
right. Like it felt
Yeah.
that felt kind of
The way that Maggie figures out that it's him too is like this cloth that apparently she
yeah.
double takes at. It's the thing with the moths where she's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, look at this cloth. What a distinctive and interesting cloth in the fire. And then she sees one like that when he's bandaging the new Babylonians once they're all sad and bedraggled on shore. And she's like, oh my gosh, it was him. I'm gonna cry. And then he hugs her and he's feeling all sad and bad. And but you know what? He might still be Stockholm syndromed up, so we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the only other
But
thing I
yeah,
want.
it was very clearly him. We all know it because of all the work, the few things that they did last season to set that up. And so it lacks any kind of emotional punch for the audience to be like, yeah, okay, Maggie, glad you're on board, right? Like that to me, it was just it's like, oh yeah, you want us to feel something about this? We've all known since last season that he's got like a mental thing for Dama. So we're not, I mean, maybe in television people expect those sorts of twists, like in soap operas and stuff, but I get nothing out of that.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Um, so it coming up, I guess, Negan, he's in this really weird place with their characterization of him. Like they want him to be a leader, but they're also kneecapping him, making him pathetic. Um, so yeah, he's a puppet, a figurehead. He, I think, recognizes that, but he still puts on the show every so often. It's just strange.
Yeah. So, all right. But I'm excited to talk about, or I don't know. I I do like chatting about these things and maybe there will be some improvement. But in the storyline, I hope so. And maybe this will be a reveal of some of the things that we are missing. But it does feel, unfortunately to me, like kind of a repeat of what we were talking about in the first season. So I guess we shall see when we look at the next couple of episodes.
I suppose.
So if our listeners have already watched this, or if you are watching it, I would love to hear your thoughts. You can reach us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. And very curious to hear what people thought of the show, or if there is an agreement with what we like. If there are positives we are missing, I would love to hear it. Anything else to add, Stuart?
Nothing else to add. Let's hope for better episodes.
Thanks all for listening, and until next time, bye bye.
Bye now.